Yeah. Talk to some peeps.
Talk to some people.
Anybody know?
I want to make sure I say your husband's name, Dr. Vika Samir Chia.
Vikas Murchia, same last name, Murchia.
Vikas Murchia. Of course, we should have picked up on that. Hi, Joanne. How are you? Hi, Anne Marie. How are you? Joanne,
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm awesome. Are you excited? Have you guys ever been to an Ask the Expert with us?
This is my first one.
Joanne, you either?
Yeah, it's my first one.
Oh, I'm so excited. We have so many people that signed up. I can't wait. Susan, it's so nice to see you, to meet you. Thank you for being here. David, wow. How did you guys all find this? This is incredible.
Out there on the interwebs.
The interwebs. We're just letting everybody trickle in tonight.
Yeah.
I'm so excited that everybody took the time. You know what this is? Like a commitment to your health. Have an opportunity to ask the docs. There's not one, but there's two, you guys. It's like special surprises tonight. We've got them coming in left and right. We're going to give it a minute for people to come on here. So I think
Yeah. Kathy's
Kathy's slaying it out in California. Kathy, how's the plant slaying going for you while we're here? She's like, why you're talking to me? I'm talking to you.
Hi, doing good.
This is one of my members. I was talking to Dr. Murchia and her husband, also Dr. Murchia, about Plantspiration. I'm going to just ask you, Kathy, like, how would you explain it?
Oh, how Plantspiration?
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely changed my life. I mean, I honestly, I was just thinking, like, I couldn't imagine life without it, with this support group. It's just been amazing. And, you know, I have my downfalls. I had it last week and I'm struggling, but I'm with the help and your help, and I get back on track, and
You're doing it.
Definitely.
You're in our Saturday support group setting. We've got the nutrition education and cooking classes on Wednesday night. We have the Saturday support group. Every Saturday, people from all over come together. We've got a Facebook group that's just like a family of people living this life together. Like, we've created this giant blue zone.
Yeah.
And then we even do virtual yoga on Sunday. Yeah, we're like building blue zones all over the place is what it is. And
Right.
the number one reason why people don't make change, does anybody know? The number one reason why people don't make change, because they don't know how.
Don't know how.
Yeah. I think they're afraid to. They don't know. You're right. It's just difficult.
It really is.
It's scary.
It is scary. It was scary for us. David, before we start, how did you find us?
Well, I think I saw a video of you walking through the grocery store talking about, this is the heart attack section here.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my goodness, that's the section I shop in.
Oh no.
Have you been thinking about going plant-based, or are you?
This would actually be my third time going plant-based. Each time I've lost over 70 pounds. Now I've regained the weight back. Yeah, I started out in, I think, 1996 McDougall plan.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so now I just got off the vegan thing. It's strange because it's just a mental change. I relocated from Chicago to Houston, and then my brother who lives here said, man, you got to try this restaurant. You got to go to this restaurant. And so I'm consuming all this sad food again.
That's her husband.
Yeah.
That's why we're here doing what we're doing.
So he's a veteran. He's did a couple tours. And so we're gonna get,
Right.
but that's why we really changed it up with a support group. That's a real big missing
And piece.
Yeah, it seems.
Getting everybody together like this. Anne Marie, you're in here just a couple weeks. How's it going for you?
Oh, good. I'm really enjoying it. I'm learning a lot, coming up with some great recipes. I'm attending all of your classes, having some success. It's going well.
I love hearing this. Well, it's 7 o'clock. I mean, I know people will keep on trickling in. I had a lot of people sign up, but I'm really excited to have everybody here. Welcome to Plantspiration's Ask the Plant-Based Expert. I'm Stephanie Ignaco, founder of Plantspiration, lifestyle medicine coach, and this is co-founder John. Actually, over 10 years ago, my daughter came home, said she wanted to go vegan, and I said, that's the dumbest thing you could ever do. You're going to die. And I really thought this was the worst idea ever. And I went on the internet and I searched, how long could she live without meat? I actually saw the movie Forks Over Knives and I thought, okay, I'm never doing that. But I got wind that she would be okay. And I put it aside. And then fast forward 6 months later, we were on our way home from our 9th surgery in 11 months. And I went back to this movie and I thought, you know what, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And for us, 10 years ago meant grains, greens, fruits, and vegetables. It wasn't vegan junk food at restaurants. It wasn't all this transition food. And this is what I teach and inspire people to do today. And what better than to hear it from our very own guest speaker, double board certified internist, lifestyle medicine doctor, and her husband, Dr.
Vikas.
Say it again, Dr. Vikasa Murchia.
Vikas Murchia.
And Dr. Shika Murchia, both of you guys. It's such an honor to have you here. And thank you so much for taking the time to meet with everybody. I love your presentation that you're going to talk about because it's just everybody has somebody that knows somebody or struggles with hypertension.
Absolutely.
And you cover all topics as a lifestyle medicine doctor. You know, this is how we prevent and even reverse disease. But I'm grateful to have you here on this one subject we certainly don't hear enough about. I mentioned her last week. I actually had somebody with low blood pressure on medication. I said, we got to talk to your doctor, tell him your blood pressure is low, that maybe, readjust the medication. And his doctor sent him home and told him to eat more salt. Dr. Murchia, I'm so grateful for you to be here because we need more doctors to understand the root cause of disease and how we can prevent it and treat it. And thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time. You guys, all of you, thank you for being here. Welcome. We're going to let doctors do their talks. And then I want you guys to get your questions ready because this is the most important part, is asking these experts. Dr. Murchia, thank you so much. I can't wait to hear how you got here, how you got on plants, all of it.
Yeah. So tell me, I can just talk about my story first and then do my presentation, however you like it.
Yeah.
I say, let's hear the story first, because I know that we weren't all born vegan.
Yeah.
No.
Let's hear.
So can you, again, Dr. Murchia, your background, your husband's background, I think this is phenomenal that you both came in here. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's actually exciting. So yeah, no, I was not born vegan, but I was born vegetarian. Grew up in India. My mom and dad don't eat meat. They didn't even eat eggs. So, but I grew up with, a regular Indian vegetarian diet and which had dairy in it. And then as I grew up, I added eggs as well, because, the influences around me said, you need to eat more protein. So being a vegetarian, I said, all right, I'll add eggs. And then I started liking them, got married. And thankfully, I did not have any chronic illnesses. So I chanced upon this lifestyle medicine conference that Harvard was hosting, which said there's cooking classes in the conference. And I said, oh my God, what kind of conference has cooking classes? So I signed up for it, but I couldn't get the tickets to the cooking session. So I attended the conference. I loved it. I bought a bunch of books and then I just kept them aside and didn't do anything with it. And then a couple of years later in 2019, I said, I'm going to sign up again because I want to go into the cooking session and learn what they're teaching. So, and then it became virtual in 2020, which was better because I could attend everything virtually and, really listen. I took notes. And then I said, I'm going to go plant-based for 1 month and see if I can survive without eggs and milk. So,
yeah.
So I did. I survived. And then I said, I'm going to take the board exam. So then and then my husband here joined me. He said, I want to study with you. And then we both did the board exams together. And then once you read the data, you just cannot go back. We became whole food plant-based.
I have to ask you before we even start, while the both of you were learning this, was there at any time that you said, I can't believe they didn't teach us this in medical school?
Yeah, we're like,
I think we say that all the time.
All
I think
the
we keep saying
time.
that even now. It's like
how
why
did
didn't
you
we
know
learn
this?
any of this
How did
before?
you know this? Yeah, we say that every day.
Isn't this awesome to hear, you guys?
Yeah.
Awesome to hear from doctors. Like, give me a thumbs up if this,
Good,
it
yeah.
feels good
Yeah.
to hear that, because we have so many questions and this is what the biggest obstacle
Yeah.
is, not being able to hear it. So you're hearing it here. Internist and
OBGYN?
OBGYN.
OBGYN, urogynecology.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
All right. Are you guys ready for this?
Yes.
Take it away. You can share screen, and Kathy, it's so good to see you. While she's setting up, I'll keep saying Cynthia, it's so good to see you. Colleen, all you plant slayers here, new people. I love this. You go ahead, Dr.
Okay, so I am going to just talk really briefly, as Stephanie and I discussed. This is a small 15-20 minute presentation. And then after that, anybody can ask me questions. So this is just on hypertension. And why I chose this is because I see it every single day, multiple times a day in my office. I'm a primary care physician. I practice in an outpatient setting in Massachusetts. And my practice is regular bread and butter primary care, but I incorporate lifestyle counseling or just, education to my patients with everything they come in. So hypertension is very, very common. And how do I go down?
It's okay. These guys.
Okay. Oh, geez.
No, this is great.
I'm sorry, I'm stuck, but I will fix my slide in a second.
This is how it goes. It gives us a chance to say hello again and thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm excited that all of you guys are here and that you
Okay.
To the right and left arrow.
So blood pressure. What is blood pressure? So it's the pressure, when our heart pumps blood through our arteries, it exerts pressure on the walls of the vessels, and this is called blood pressure. So blood pressure is measured using two numbers. Probably everybody knows, because everybody's had their blood pressure checked. The systolic is the upper number and the diastolic is the lower. For example, if someone's normal, we'll say, oh, your blood pressure is 120/80. And the definition of hypertension or high blood pressure, this is based on the American College of Cardiology or the American Heart Association guidelines. A normal blood pressure should be 120/80 or less. So an elevated blood pressure is anything above 120 to 129, and the lower number is above 80. Then hypertension is in two stages. So stage one is if your blood pressure is between 130 and 139 over 80 to 89. Stage two is if it's higher, 140/90 or higher. So that's how we define hypertension. And why are we concerned? We're concerned because it is very, very common in the United States, the prevalence, and this is from the 2017-18 data. So I didn't even see the latest data. Hypertension is more than 45% people have it. So like half the people. And amongst men, it's 51% men have hypertension and 39% women. And this graph shows, if you see the dark blue columns, they're all like all people. And it increases by age. So then if you see the next columns, as your age group increases, the prevalence of high blood pressure goes on increasing. So if you're 60 and older, there's about 75% people who have hypertension. So that's a very, very high number. And so again, so why are we concerned? Because it's everybody must have heard hypertension or high blood pressure is a silent killer. Most people don't know they have it unless they have their blood pressure checked. And it can cause devastating consequences like stroke, heart attacks, heart failure, chronic kidney disease, even other things like eye disease, vascular disease, and other things. So that's why we're concerned, and it should be treated. So what is the treatment? So the first step or treatment should be lifestyle modification, and that should be restriction of your sodium intake, which is salt or sodium, which is present in a lot of processed and animal-based food, and then increasing potassium intake. Again, I'm a doctor, but I didn't really know that increasing your potassium-based food can also actually help lower blood pressure, but I found out, and I'm constantly learning. And then I also found out that potassium, not from taking tablets, but preferably dietary sources of potassium. And as you can see in the pictures, most of dietary sources of potassium are fruits, vegetables, beans, things like that. And then reducing your snacks and processed food, reducing sugary food, reducing meat intake, and reducing saturated fat, because saturated fat can be present in other plant-based foods as well. And then what other non-dietary lifestyle interventions? Weight loss, huge weight loss can, for every kilogram of weight we lose, we can lower our blood pressure by 1 millimeter. So, and physical activity, we can lower blood pressure, both aerobic and the guidelines. I think this group is very savvy. We know 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity is the minimum you need per week. And then also resistance training, which includes both isometric and dynamic resistance training. So like weights, squats, lunges, those kind of things. Then reducing alcohol consumption. It's recommended that men drink less than 2 drinks a day and women less than 1 drink a day. And then of course, smoking cessation. And then other interventions can also be caffeine reduction. Caffeine is shown to increase blood pressure acutely. So for example, if I have high blood pressure and I drink a big cup of coffee, I can increase my blood pressure at that time. But regular intake of caffeine is not well connected to high blood pressure. Then also increasing the following. So dietary magnesium, calcium, soy intake, folate, polyphenols. So magnesium is again present in a lot of plant-based foods, dark leafy greens, nuts, seeds, legumes. Calcium, oranges, bananas, dark leafy greens, beans. Then soy, we know soy is soy. Folate is also present in broccoli, peas, greens. And polyphenols are those beautiful colors and antioxidants that we see in all these beautiful colored fruits, vegetables, spices, and things like blueberries or grapes or broccoli. They all are loaded with polyphenols. So I just want to very briefly go over the evidence. So what is the evidence? Why am I saying that this is all going to help? There was a big study which was published in the New England Journal of Medicine in '97. It's called the DASH study, or Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. And a lot of doctors do mention the DASH diet when you see them for high blood pressure. They took about 460 adults and whose blood pressure was high, but not super high, less than 160 over 80 to 95. And what they did is they fed them the standard American diet for 3 weeks, all of them. And then they randomly assigned them to 3 groups. So one group was the control, which stayed on the sort of the SAD diet, low in fruits, vegetables, legumes, and high in snacks, meat, and saturated fat. The second one was a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, legumes, and low in snacks and sweets, but that's it. And the third one was a combination diet rich in fruits, vegetables, legumes, and they added low-fat dairy, and they kept it low in snacks and sweets. Saturated fat was less than 25%. And this group had 4 to 5 servings of fruit every day, 4 to 5 servings of vegetables, and 2 to 3 servings of low-fat dairy. And in this study, food was actually provided to all the participants, so there was no error. They were not eating their own food. And they studied them for 8 weeks. So if you see these lines, the top line is the control or the standard American diet. They lowered their blood pressure barely anything. The middle one was the diet rich in fruits and vegetables. And the third one is the combination diet, which lowered it the most. So they concluded that, diet combination rich in fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, and low-fat dairy is great. And then I was just looking at this chart, and I see, if you look at the combination diet and see what it consisted of, it actually had barely any beef, pork, and ham, whereas the fruit and vegetable diet had more beef, pork, and ham. It had the same amount of poultry, and it had much less fats, oils, and salad dressings than the middle diet. So, I think this is just my opinion. I'm not the researcher, but I don't think the addition of the low-fat dairy did it. It's probably the reduction in the meat and the oils and the dressings that probably lowered the blood pressure even more. And the one thing in this study was they wanted to keep the calories of all the participants the same. So they fed them different things, but they kept their calories the same. So it wasn't that one group was eating lower calories than the other group. So they were all eating the same amount of calories. So they concluded in the study that a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, low-fat dairy foods, and reduced saturated fats and total fats can substantially lower your blood pressure, and that it offers an additional nutritional approach to preventing and treating hypertension. And then there was another study that I looked at, which it's called the TOM study, and they took 900 folks and they started them on a program of lifestyle interventions. They wanted them to lose weight, reduce their sodium intake, and reduce their alcohol intake. And then they took those people and they put them in 5 groups. One group they gave placebo, and the other 4 groups they gave them different blood pressure meds. And at 4 years, they showed that people who maintained their lifestyle showed improvement in blood pressure and their cholesterol. And of course, the medication groups had lower blood pressures, but the lifestyle group also lowered their blood pressures. So the conclusion is, if your blood pressure is elevated or there is mild hypertension, lifestyle changes alone can actually help in lowering your blood pressure. But if your blood pressure is really high and you have other risks like diabetes or chronic kidney disease, then you need medications to immediately lower your blood pressure, and then institute lifestyle changes simultaneously, so that those lifestyle changes can then take over, and then you can start lowering or reducing, and then eventually, hopefully, taking the patient off of blood pressure medication. And that's it. Thank you.
I love this. Thank you so much for this excellent description of what's going on with, what was it, over 50% of America, and then at age 70.
Oh my gosh.
I
It's
had no
For
idea.
age 60, 75% people have hypertension.
This is crazy, honestly. So some people asked in the side, I saw on the side, they were like, I wish we could see the study using whole food plant-based diet. There are studies of whole food plant-based diet, and we see it all the time. And maybe you, doctor, we could, yeah, there you are. Should I make your spotlight so we could see them both? I love this spotlight for everyone.
Okay.
Yes. So we know what the studies on whole food, plant-based and lifestyle changes look like. Could you tell us what those studies look like?
Yeah, I mean, whole food plant-based diet, even this DASH study is pretty much all whole food plant-based except for the low-fat dairy. And as I said, when I looked at the tables, I honestly believe the blood pressure was much lower because there was less fat, less oil, less store-bought dressings in that group of people. And that's why they lowered their blood pressure. And whole food plant-based, I have patients who are whole food plant-based and have gotten off their medication.
Oh yeah.
Heck yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna feel like $1 million.
You know how that feels.
Well, yeah, but this is just,
Yeah,
well, it's just exciting because we don't get to
Yeah.
see about it. We don't get to
That's
talk about it.
awesome. That's amazing.
What would you say? I'll just ask this before, while you guys are all thinking of your questions. What do you said you see the most of hypertension throughout the day? Other Dr. Murcia, what is the most
Mhm.
that you see in your practice every day? What most chronic disease? I know you're dealing more with OBGYN, but I know as having 3
Mm.
pregnancies, I was
So-
sick.
I know.
So I subspecialize in pelvic organ prolapse, urogynecology. But I think one of the common factor that I see with the majority of my patients, and I think it's responsible for a great deal of the disease burden they have, is, believe it or not, constipation. You know, constipation is such a huge thing that leads to prolapse. It leads to incontinence. It leads to fecal incontinence. It leads to abdominal and pelvic pain. You know, we have patients coming in who haven't had bowel movements for several days, sometimes even longer than that, you know, and then they're complaining about vague abdominal discomfort, which is sometimes in the left lower quadrant, sometimes in the right, sometimes it's all around, you know, their abdomen is distended, and they're coming in with history of diverticulosis and diverticulitis, and they're seeing colorectal surgeons and they're seeing gastroenterologists, and none of these doctors have talked to them and spent time explaining to them why fiber is so important for them to consume in their diet, and how by just increasing the amount of fiber they eat significantly, they will solve their constipation problem. They will solve their diverticulitis problems and diverticulosis problems. They'll solve their abdominal pain problems, you know? So they'll solve their incontinence problems, their prolapse problems. It's just unbelievable. So I think that's the one common denominator which kind of binds all these different diseases together, and it's a huge problem. You know, most of the processed foods which we consume are completely stripped of all the fiber content in them. They have very little to no fiber content whatsoever. The foods that have fiber are fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, tubers, whole grains, brown rice. The foods that don't have fiber are all the animal protein foods: meat, poultry, fish, eggs, dairy, including milk, yogurt, cheese, oils, and processed food. So you basically have to choose which side you want to be on, which group of foods you want to eat. And I talk about this, and I say this to my patients all the time, multiple times a day. And sometimes I feel like I'm sounding like a broken record. I just need to kind of like put it on replay or something. But it's people who actually do follow through with it, they do amazingly well. They feel better. They eliminate the pain and discomfort that they have. They have better health. And the whole thing with even the hypertension and hypercholesterolemia, you know, these things go very much hand in hand. You can think of our bodies, the heart is a pump. It pumps blood in our bodies, right? So it's not that you can have no blood pressure. You need to have a blood pressure because you need to pump the blood out of your heart to all the different extremities of your body. But then you don't want that blood pressure to be too high, because if it's too high, you can create breaks and ruptures in your blood vessels and get strokes and heart attacks and problems that way. So you want that blood pressure to be normal, you know. So and the way that it's maintained normal is that your heart acts as one pump, and then your blood vessels, your arteries, act as a secondary pump. So as long as you have your blood vessels working normally and they're healthy, they actually absorb. They have a degree of compliance built into them. So they can get a high pressure blood flow coming into them. They stretch a little bit, they reduce their pressure so they're more compliant. And then they have their own recoil, which then further propels that blood down to our extremities and further out. So it becomes extremely important to maintain good, clean blood vessels. You know, think of the drainage systems in our houses, right? We have sinks, and we have all the
Stephanie has that.
drains that are kind of going in there.
We got the Drano over here, the whole food plant-based Drano.
There you go. So basically that's what you want to do. You want to Drano and clean your blood vessels so that they can work properly.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to, so the coronary arteries are the arteries around your heart. Your aorta is the biggest blood vessel in your body, which helps distribute blood all over your body. If these things start developing plaques in them, they're going to stop working. Peripheral artery disease, you know, extremities, claudication, pain with walking, things like that. You have poor blood flow to your lower extremities. So blood flow is extremely important. You know, the blood cells carry all the nutrients that all our cells need to function. If you can't get oxygenated nutrition blood cells to all the different parts of our body, you're going to develop disease in whichever part of the body that blood doesn't go to.
Wow.
Okay, I think I said too much.
No, there's no
Oh,
such thing as
that's
saying too
amazing.
much here. This is
So
amazing.
so basically it's fiber. You need more than an apple a day to keep the doctor away, but
Yes.
maybe some oats throw in there and some beans.
We are so grateful that you guys are here. We've got
Yeah,
Michelle, I see
it's
your hand up, but
fantastic.
I'm going to ask Stephanie's question here in the chat bar. What is considered low blood pressure and what causes it? That's a great question.
So, I mean, low blood pressure, there's no real limit. I guess anything under like 90 systolic, 90 over 50. But honestly, some people who are, people who are very athletic or just different factors, maybe genetic, you can run a low blood pressure. Like people can run 100 over 50 and feel fine. So if your blood pressure is low and you're symptomatic, which means if you're feeling dizzy, lightheaded, you're feeling some like darkness in front of your vision, those things means you have a low blood pressure that's symptomatic. So that's low blood pressure. But as of a number, like if it's 100 over 60 and you're fine, you're doing everything, it's not low.
This
Yeah,
is him. And that
that's
changed dramatically for us when we became more endurance.
mine was 120 over 80. constantly every time it went, and then it went down to 100 over 60.
It's honestly
Yeah.
ridiculous to say that we are endurance athletes. Well, we were endurance couch potatoes before. I never, I say I went from crippled to cranky, and I was like looking at walkers. I was thinking that this is what 40s looked like for,
Yeah,
for,
I was a
for me.
champion chip and dip eater.
Wow.
But
So
we.
you cleaned your blood vessels and that's how you dropped your blood pressure.
Yeah.
I feel fantastic.
We-
Half my age.
Give me some high fiber.
Give me a high
We
fiber.
want everybody to get
High
that.
fiber.
Yes.
High fiber.
We know fiber is what it's all about. What is considered low blood pressure? Great question. Michelle in Canada. I'm so glad you're here. Isn't this great? 100 over-
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. That was just a great presentation.
Thank you.
I just have a question on, so my husband and I have been like whole food vegan for 2 years now, and he's type 1 diabetic. And his blood pressure was high, of course, before we started, and it's come down a little bit. But does it take longer as a type 1 diabetic for the blood pressure to come down? And
Yeah,
then,
because I think it probably depends on how long he's had diabetes and how, how much damage there is. Yeah, absolutely. The
Okay,
longer
yeah,
you've had a
well-
certain chronic disease, the longer it can take to heal.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, like he's been type 1 diabetic for over 20 years.
Yeah.
But before becoming whole food vegan, we had some they call it heart fit, like extensive blood work, and we got these results. Anyways, they calculate your heart age. And
Yeah.
He was how old were you at the time? 40? He was 40 at the time, and they had calculated his heart age to be 72. This is pre going
Right,
whole food vegan,
right,
of
right.
course. So to your point, the damage I think is
Yeah, and the other thing is, I
there's a
think
lot.
with type 1 diabetes, you can really never get off of your insulin treatment, but you can
Yeah.
lower it significantly because a lot of type 1 diabetics, when they follow unhealthy lifestyle, can develop insulin resistance on top of type 1 diabetes and then get that type 2 type picture, like the high cholesterol, the fatty liver, high triglycerides, all of that. So just going to a whole food plant-based diet, which is very low in fat and of course low in processed sugars, can help significantly.
And
Okay.
Michelle-
And then one more part to the question. And then on the other side, I'm low blood pressure. Like, is it actually an issue though? Because the only times I notice is if I get up too fast, then I get like the dizzy, the lightheadedness, the dark behind the eyes. But other than that, I don't feel like it's a problem.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're on medication, you definitely want to speak to your doctor to try and lower it.
Medication for
Yeah,
me.
that's the biggest thing, is to lower your medication. And then otherwise, maybe you're not hydrated well during the day. Dehydration is a big thing. And then you may want to get your physician to evaluate other causes of dizziness. But as I said, yes, I mean, a very low number, like if you're 80 systolic, you're 80 over 40, that's very low.
Okay.
But even up to 90 systolic is okay, as long as you're feeling okay.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're
Michelle,
welcome.
I want to just say thank you. You've been crushing the plants. That deep number that you guys had pulled. Do you mind sharing the difference that it made when you went whole food plant-based?
Oh, like the heart fit age? Well, I don't know. We haven't like retested all those things, but
No.
because what? Oh yeah, anyways. Like I'm Canadian, so our measurements are different. But like, for instance, my triglycerides were 7.1, whatever the measurement is in Canada. And now it's like 1. Like
Oh.
CRP is like, everything's like optimal for me pretty much, even though I am still overweight, but all like the LDL, everything is just really just come down.
That's
Awesome.
amazing. Amazing.
I'm working right now to try and get my LDL below, I think the American measurement is 70.
Yes.
And it just LDL just keeps coming down. But it was from the report we got before, it was considered high risk. I was just, everything was off the charts, not in a good way.
Your high function.
Oh,
You're-
and I had my A1C was fine, but my C peptide was like triple what it should be. And
Wow.
so I know that I can't say that I was pre-diabetic, but I feel like that's a pretty bad sign. And now that's C peptide is optimal. So yeah, it's just been a blessing, everything.
That's
Just-
amazing.
Anyways, thank you.
Outstanding job that you've
Oh,
done.
great.
It's so inspiring. Kathy, I love seeing you over here in California. How are you?
Slaying it.
She is-
I just gonna see, I loved everything and the food and everything. And I was gonna have you touch upon stress as it relates to hypertension and high blood pressure. I know my dad had he had 2 strokes. And he was a very high anxiety, high stress, didn't eat fiber, that kind of stuff. But I just was curious, like how stress comes into play.
Oh, stress definitely plays a role. Whatever reading I did, in fact, you're such a good question, because I myself thought about, I'm like, why haven't they mentioned stress reduction in this? But they hadn't. But yes, I see that in my clinical practice. People are so stressed out, they're anxious, depressed, or they have acute stress going on in their lives and their blood pressure goes up. Even white coat hypertension, that, when you walk in the doctor's office and your blood pressure goes up, it's because they're stressed. And as soon as they go back home, it goes down. So yeah, chronic stress, even sleep apnea can actually raise blood pressure.
Wow.
So if you're snoring at night, you're not breathing correctly, your blood pressure can go up. And so all of it, and one of the pillars of lifestyle medicine is stress reduction. So it's not just diet and exercise, and it's diet, exercise, good sleep, stress reduction, and a social connection too. So this community that Plantspiration has is amazing, because you guys have a community.
How many of you guys are out there doing your breathing?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mindfulness and meditation can go a very long way to help reduce the catecholamine surges that we have in our bodies, which can then drive blood pressure up. So by reducing them, you can actually drive your blood pressure down. So, breathing control, pranayama, just controlling your breathing can be a very, very powerful thing. So the 2 nervous systems in our body are the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. The sympathetic tend to increase our vascular tone, increase our blood pressures. The parasympathetic tend to relax things for us. The sympathetic is the fight or flight, you need to get out of, and the parasympathetic is relax. And the biggest cranial nerve which we have in our body, which is parasympathetic in origin, is the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve actually innervates our diaphragm. And by innervating the diaphragm and by controlling our breathing, that is one of the simplest, easiest, best ways we have for activating the parasympathetic system in our bodies.
And relaxing, yeah.
To help relax us. So controlling your breath, breathing in for a count, like simple thing is square breathing.
Yeah, box breathing.
You breathe in for a count of 4, you hold your breath for a count of 4, you exhale for a count of 4, you hold that exhale out for a count of 4, and you just do that. You do that for a couple of minutes, you do that for 5 minutes, you do it for whatever time it takes. But just by doing that, you're activating your parasympathetic nerve, which is going to reduce the sympathetic surges into your body, and that's going to help reduce your blood pressure, and it's going to help calm you down. It's going to make you more relaxed and comfortable. And it's a great way to deal with even stressful and anxious situations.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I just want to make sure that you guys are hearing this.
Yes. I love the
because
doctor backing it up.
every Monday I talk about Mindful Monday in the group live, and I've taught them things like when your body gets stressed or there's fear, our blood rushes to the largest muscle, which could leave our hands cold. But simple things like even warming your hands can signal your body to start calming down. Dropping your jaw, dropping your tongue can reset our system. And all the breathing. If you guys are doing more breathing, show these doctors that we're getting you doing more breathing right here. Let's see it. Look at this. Look at this. Look. I'm
Great.
telling you, it's what saves lives, and you guys are amazing.
Awesome.
More questions. I saw more hands up. iPhone. I don't know whose iPhone this is, but I'm going to ask you to unmute, and I would like to say hello. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I see questions. iPhone.
They might have just said, yeah, raise your hand.
Oh, I see. She's like, don't make me get on here like this. Colleen, I think you might have a question. What do you think? She's just been doing amazing.
Yeah.
Colleen is one of the.
No questions.
Quite inspirational.
She's such an inspiration. I'm so glad that you're here. Actually, Jetta, you had a question and it was great. You want to ask her? You ask it, because I could.
Well, you had mentioned that the arterial walls will get damaged when the blood pressure is too high.
You said bring
And
them out. Yeah.
there could be tears. And I was wondering, once, you know, your blood pressure goes down with proper eating, do those tears heal themselves?
Oh, yeah, the endothelium. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, one is you can have actual full thickness ruptures and then you're bleeding and hemorrhaging. You know, those aren't going to necessarily spontaneously heal immediately. You're going to, that's going to leave you with like a stroke or something.
Or surgery.
And then it's going to take a long time for that to get better. But if you have, if you get, before you get to that catastrophic point, you know, yes, your body will heal. Your body will continue to heal and remodel. That's, you know, our bodies work in different ways. There's certain things it needs to do very, very quickly. And there's certain things that our bodies do in a very slow manner. So if you have a cut and you're bleeding, you know, the blood cells, the platelets and the fiber and all that stuff kind of come to plug that up. But now when you're dealing with diseases like hypertension, hypercholesterolemia, you're not going to necessarily correct them immediately, but it's going to take a while for them to improve and get better, but they certainly will. And that improvement could be weeks or months. It's not going to be in the order of seconds or minutes. You know, if you waited for your bleeding to stop for weeks or months, you would have exsanguinated by then, right? So certain parts of our body's control systems need to respond very, very quickly. And certain parts of them can work in a more slower, more deliberate manner over a longer period of time.
Yeah. But the endothelium or the inner lining of the blood vessels can definitely heal.
And then when is a stent applied? I mean, how does that tie into this?
So the stent is just it's like a little metal spring, almost like that is applied in the coronary arteries. It can also be applied in the legs or in
I mean,
the
when,
arteries.
like,
Yeah.
like
It's to
when?
open- Yeah, it's to open up a stenosis, which means if your artery is blocked, like what Stephanie was just showing, that yellow, that plaque that's built up and it's all blocked. So if it's in your heart or the myocardial arteries, then that's a heart attack. And so they have to go in through the groin, go into your blood vessels, and then open it up with a stent, which is great. And it saves your life at that time and it improves the blood flow. But if we continue to do exactly what we're doing, eat a standard American diet and continue to stay sedentary or smoke or drink alcohol, then the other arteries will start clogging up. That stent can clog up in itself. And then you need more stents and bypass, and then eventually you can't do anything. So that's why the lifestyle changes are so important. So yes, stent is life-saving in the moment, but it doesn't do anything in the long term.
Thank you very much. It's just a temporary opening into that pipe. It's like having the plumber come in and just keep taping it up and keep taping it up when you make these dietary lifestyle changes. I did talk to Esselstyn. This was one of the first questions I asked Dr. Esselstyn. I was like, what happens when you go plant-based?
I'm an engineer, so I'm like, hey, ask them what happens
To the
to
stent.
the stent after you go plant-based, and they just
Stay
stay
there and then
They're just kind of grown in at that point.
keep on going.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with the stent is it acts as a way to open up blocked blood vessels. Now, if you don't change your diet, that what caused the disease in your blood vessels can now cause disease in your stent also, and you can have reocclusion of those stents. So then it becomes really important. So you're not in this vicious cycle of being in the standard diet, developing disease, getting treatments with stents and other things, only to reocclude them and then getting more stents. And you can't keep restenting the same place over and over again. It has to be in different spots that you can do it. So a better way of managing that is not necessarily even need the stent, is to eat a good, healthy, whole food, plant-based diet where you can reverse the atherosclerosis, the lipid plaques that are building up inside your blood vessels, and get them to open up naturally on their own, okay, without the need of a stent. That's really the whole goal behind it. And it's kind of unbelievable, you know. I was reading this book and it was mentioned in there. I think it was written by Dr. Campbell, and he was talking about Dr. Esselstyn, that when he was working with the Cleveland Clinic, he actually went to the cardiology department there and said, hey, let's introduce a program where we can cut down on the number of these cases that we're doing, stenting and open heart surgeries and stuff. So let's introduce a lifestyle program that can work towards reducing that. And all the messages and all the mails that he sent fell on deaf ears. There was no response, and he was just dumbfounded in terms of why were there no responses. And unfortunately, a part of it is that there's the business of medicine, these institutions thrive on the volume of patients that they treat with open heart surgeries and stents and stuff. And by taking them away, you're actually taking away a substantial income from them.
That's the whole part.
That's the ugly part of it, and unfortunately, more and more of medicine is becoming industrialized from that perspective, corporate.
Well, thankfully, because of doctors like you, we're getting to
You
what
guys.
you guys signed up for, and that's saving lives and being able
Hopefully.
to you are doing it. So grateful. David, I'm so glad that you're here tonight. Thank you so much. I'd love to hear the question for the doctors tonight.
Sure, thank you. So I actually have IBS-D. Now it's kind of just been IBS now. So you talk about constipation. It used to just be diarrhea, constant diarrhea. It was so bad since I was 15 years old. I suffered from it, where I couldn't really go out and do things, socially, where there would be food involved. And so now it's like it's turning more to constipation, but it could be a little bit of both. And so I understand about the constipation. I've been to the ER thinking I was having a heart attack because of the constipation. And one of the things I love to eat is Indian food, but it has the ghee in there. And so something in there upsets my stomach, and I can't try it quick. And when I talk to them at the restaurant, I say, can you remove the ghee? And they're just like, that's impossible. Like, it's not Indian food.
Unfortunately, Indian restaurants don't have healthy Indian food. Well, like we grew up eating a healthy Indian food, and now you can follow my Instagram. I make all my food oil-free, Indian. So the best way to do it is to actually make it at home. It's all about the spices. Literally, it's just the spices. The Indian spices add the flavor.
Most of the Indian food you get in the stores and
Are
restaurants,
very unhealthy.
they have a lot of cream, they have a lot of dairy and cheese in them. And the ghee may or may not be the biggest part of it, but I think it's more the dairy and the cream that's in the food that makes it sort of constipating, extremely constipating for you. So, fiber is the great mediator. If your stools are too soft, fiber will bulk them up. If your stools are too firm, fiber will soften them up. So fiber for a person with either IBS, constipation, diarrhea, or going back and forth between them, fiber is your solution.
Okay. And also, I'm just curious, like, I think that because of COVID and a lot of people are working home remotely these days, that there are going to be a lot of people like me that are just totally sedentary throughout the day. And I really am curious to see whether or not we're going to see an increase in obesity and heart disease, once we get towards the end of this.
Not if I can help it.
I hope not. Right. I mean, I
Right.
think Stephanie can talk to the physical activity part, right?
Yeah, it's like, how often should we get up and move? I know Dr. Greger is always on his treadmill walking. Even in his sleep, he walks on the treadmill. So it's like, how often do I need to get up and move?
I would like to actually answer to that, David, just because we're both so empathetic to having IBS in both directions of it. I actually lived on stool softeners, and I thought it was just part of my diet to have Colace and stool softeners every day.
And I couldn't leave a restaurant without visiting the restroom.
Like we wouldn't barely make it home. But
It's
as soon
terrible.
as we changed this, and our biggest fear was don't eat nuts, don't eat seeds, don't eat this. We were told to eat all these things that actually healed us. Keep eating whole food, plant-based. I hope you keep coming around and I can teach you how to modify those favorite foods to Indian dishes, everything, so that you can.
Yeah.
I teach how to bring the same foods and flavors that you love in, so we can keep eating these things and we can get that body running to its best. I like to tell everybody this is like a restoration from the frame up
Frame up restoration.
frame up restoration, and we're all capable of that.
That's right.
when we give our body the right nourishment and tools. But I'm so glad you're here. You can definitely, we can get that better for you, David.
Definitely, the engine runs really good with clean pipes.
It does.
Yeah.
Leave it to the
All
guys.
about the pipes, keeping them clean.
It is, it really is. I hope that
And we
answered
do
your
our
question. David.
Wednesday night, we do our cooking classes and stuff, and
Wednesday night,
Yeah,
we theme it out. We just did an Indian theme one, a Mexican theme. We've
Oh,
got
man.
soul food tomorrow night, and we're
Yeah.
talking diabetes, but
I signed up for that one.
oh, I can't wait. So I don't know if you guys have seen our classes, but for the members here, they come for the laughs and then they stay for the plants. So I think you're gonna really enjoy it. Anybody else have any questions?
it's been great.
This has been great, but I have so much I want to ask and say at the same
Yeah.
time. I'm looking for the hands. Susan, how
Look
did,
at the chat.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that is for. Hi, Melissa. How are you doing on Whole Food Plant-Based? She just joined the group. She's doing great.
Nice.
All things whole food plant-based. Out of all the classes I've taught, I will just say this for these doctors to know too. I think I'm in my 200th Food for Life class. I teach about 4 to 5 recipes a week, and I've never used oil. So I like to tell people, look, I survived.
Yeah.
I survived. But in the beginning, we only really went whole food plant-based, and then the junk food kind of came in around 2017. It started really getting big, and I started eating a little bit of it, and then the oil came in, and then guess what came back?
Mhm.
My autoimmune spiked again after this. It was the oils. So that's why I stay so I
Clean.
just, yeah, with reversing most of those autoimmunes, which almost everything is an autoimmune,
Right.
it's important to just get this down.
Does Anne Marie have a question? Her hand's up.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I do think, I saw the whole list that you said is caused by constipation. Are bladder infections also caused by that too?
That you can answer.
So bladder infections, if you're having some degree of fecal incontinence issues, they can certainly, the proximity of the urethra to the anus is quite small in female. So yes, it can potentially lead to it. But there could be a variety of other factors that go into bladder infections and recurrent urinary tract infections, especially if you're postmenopausal, it can have an impact. So the genital urinary health there can be important. The other thing is that a lot of times people don't actually have infections, but they have irritation in their bladder, not from bacteria, but just from the
Diet.
the pH of the urine that they have. So if the pH of their urine is very acidic, it can lead to bladder irritation considerably more. So, one of the things which kind of gets into this is the potential renal acid load and what foods we eat, which can lead to an increase
Acid.
in that acid production, into an acidemia in our body, which then leads to an aciduria in our urinary system. And the more acidic the
Food.
urine can be, it can cause more irritation in your bladder and predispose you to even developing kidney stones and things like that. So you have to look at what the potential renal acid load of different foods are that you eat. The more proteins you eat, proteins intrinsically and of themselves are comprised of a lot of amino acids, hence acids. They will cause more acidemia in our body. And plant-based proteins as well as animal-based proteins both will cause it, but the animal-based proteins tend to cause more than the plant-based proteins do. Now, carbohydrates don't have amino acids, or they have fewer amino acids. So the potential renal acid load from carbs is much, much less. So you can actually significantly improve your bladder health by, again, watching the foods that you eat, reducing the acid in your body, the acid load to your kidneys and in your urine, and that can then lead to an improvement in urinary symptoms of frequency, urgency, questionable urinary tract infections.
You're
Thank
coming
you.
back for another talk, doctor, because,
And doctor.
and doctor, because
You're awesome.
This is awesome to hear. I hear so many of these problems and people ask, can whole food plant-based fix this or can, and I want to always say, well, we can always start with the fiber. And when you brought up that constipation topic, 50 people flashed before my eyes. If I want to go back and say, you know, this could be something that they're not getting enough fiber, or we're seeing a lot of that. Almost everybody
You
comes,
tell it, yeah.
starts
you tell
with-
it everybody.
yeah, starts off with some of this. Just amazing, just amazing. Joanne, I love the hand. Let's hear this question. Welcome from California. Plant slang plan too, plant slang.
Coast, coast.
I guess I'm kind of curious. I have some arthritis issues and I've been with Stephanie, since like November,
Yeah. you're doing-
I think. Yeah, and I made the decision to change our way of eating in in August. And I'm still struggling with arthritis issues, and mine kind of manifests as cramping in the lower, in the glutes. And I don't know if it's maybe I keep thinking, well, maybe it's the oatmeal, maybe I should be more gluten-free, maybe I should, so, and I think that's one of the reasons too, why I'm holding on to weight is because I have that chronic inflammation all the time.
Yeah, I mean, so arthritis, if it's osteoarthritis, sometimes you can't fully reverse it, right? If you already have it set in. And of course, it's dietary related. It could be, I mean, I don't know if you smoked or not, but people who've smoked, people who've been very athletic in their lives and have injured, like, sports injuries. So those things can also do it. But a dietary change can help as much as you lower your inflammation by eating whole food plant-based. And also there's other inflammatory factors, like stress is inflammatory. Not sleeping well can cause inflammation.
Oil.
Not exercising. So they say, right, sitting is the new smoking. So also all of those things. And sometimes, as I said, arthritis may not be able to be fully reversed by a whole food plant-based diet, but it can get significantly better,
I see a lot of improvement when I do get people off the oil all the way. That seems to be the biggest turning point when we can really get that out and
It's highly inflammatory.
nourish. I'm big on the Brooke Goldner smoothies for those.
Yes, and actually, yes, I was just going to say, Dr. Goldner has reversal of autoimmune disease protocols. She reverses all types of arthritis.
So it's totally what we talk about, Joanne. Keep pumping the smoothies, keep the flax going, keep the breathing going. You're doing everything right. You're doing everything right to improve and just keep going in the right
The
direction.
one thing that we found in ourselves, like we've been both whole food plant-based for a couple of years. And we started doing yoga every day for the last, month and a half now?
Mhm.
Which we weren't so regular with exercise before. Or I would do other things, walking, running, this, that. And honestly, my tendonitis, his tennis elbow, is all better. So in addition to the whole food plant-based, the yoga has helped significantly. So
you
that
can
could be something.
keep showing up on Sunday
Yeah,
yoga.
Joanne's there. She's
Yeah.
there. So
We're
good.
bringing it. And I love hearing this. See, this
Yeah.
is so validating to
Yeah.
hear. These guys get to hear this from you, doctor. So I'm so grateful. It's so important what you're saying. I hope you guys come back and do more of this.
Yeah. this-
So arthritis, you definitely can manage with, as my wife said, exercise, yoga, and the diet. It's again all about the blood flow. You got to get blood
To
flowing
your joints.
to your joints, to the cortical bone, even, things which we don't think have blood supply, but they do have microscopic blood supply. So if you've got microscopic blood supply that's going out there, you need to open and unclog those arteries so that blood can actually flow to those areas and then start healing those areas. So again, that's not a quick fix. It's a more protracted, prolonged, slow healing process, but it absolutely can take place. We actually had a physiatrist that we listened to.
Dr. Esser.
He was at the Plantspiration conference and he was talking, and it just blew my mind in terms of how many arthritic conditions and processes can be treated and managed by being on a whole food plant-based diet.
Yeah.
It was eye-opening
Yeah.
for
Look,
me.
yeah, you can look up Dr. Esser. He's on social media. His practices in Florida, and he actually is a born vegan.
What? Maybe I'll ask him.
And
to-
not only that, and he's tall, he's taller than 6 foot. So he always comes to the stage and says, hey, you think vegans don't grow tall? Look at me. He's
Mhm.
never eaten any animal products his whole life.
That's
Oh, wow,
fantastic.
that's just,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
I could do it again. That's what I wish I could come back and say. I never
Yeah.
ate animals.
That's
But
great,
we
that's
did.
great.
His parents started a vegan ranch. That's just incredible.
Yeah, so Dr. Esser is really cool. He's very amazing. Yeah.
I love this.
Can we put it on a salad?
What?
The vegan ranch.
Oh, no, my God. John doesn't
Like,
stop with the jokes, the dad jokes.
Jokes.
Love it. Any other questions? Michelle, I didn't know if that was a hand up from.
Yeah, I just have one, just to add on to that, when you were saying, get blood flowing to the joints and they have microscopic blood supply. We have someone who's in their late 20s in our house who we think actually might have RA. We're still going through the process of getting diagnosed, but like yoga is something probably just because of the movement and pressure, I guess, we're putting on the mat with our hands that could help bring blood supply to those joints.
I think so. And plus it increases flexibility, all the, your like plantar fasciitis or this tendonitis, tennis elbow. That's what I've healed on my own body with yoga.
The thing
Okay.
with rheumatologic disorders, rheumatoid arthritis, is that it can actually destroy the joint.
Yeah,
Whereas
that's what's happened so far.
osteoarthritis creates a lot of inflammation there. So
Okay.
with RA, I think it's extremely important
To do
to
the diet.
reduce the inflammation and prevent the joint injury that normally takes place. And being on a whole food plant-based diet is extremely, extremely important for that.
And I
And-
would say get him on the smoothie shred and the whole food plant-based diet on top of it for when when you're doing stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
like the
wow.
hyper nourishing.
Yeah, like that's
protocol
yeah,
from
Dr.
Dr.
Goldner's
Goldner.
hyper nourishing protocol with the green smoothies, the kale all the way.
you guys see him?
Okay, and then like, I know RA, like, I think it's autoimmune and hereditary. I guess like part of me is like, what the hell? Like, why? Because we've been plant-based for 2 years and it's just like, I think his old lifestyle maybe suddenly caught, I don't even know.
Yeah.
It just seems like unfair. We've been eating so well and then,
Right. So
It-
first of all, being vegan doesn't completely eliminate risk of anything. That's
Yeah.
one. And secondly, for example, even us, like, we're vegan, but if you go out, those foods are probably loaded with oils and sugars, and
Yeah,
we'll
oh,
eat
yeah.
out in a restaurant maybe twice a
We do
month or
too.
something.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can become very important to just make a food diary for yourself in a prospective manner, recording everything you eat. Because when you do that, you may suddenly find things that you're eating that are creating the trigger and causing the problem for you.
Or even
Right.
like vegan sugary foods, right? Like over the holidays, we were eating vegan cookies.
right, yeah.
That chronometer don't lie.
And sorry, so because RA destroys the joints, do you think that yoga would be a helpful thing in that case?
Probably. I mean, I don't know if there's any studies proving it, but I don't think
Right.
yoga can be bad for anything. Of course,
Yeah.
you have to do it in a very controlled way.
Yeah,
I think that's a great question. I love
Yeah,
it.
I don't have a great answer for you.
Yeah.
I think if it depends where in your RA you are. If you've already had
Yeah.
destruction of your joints, it may be hard. But even
Yeah.
if you have destruction or partial destruction of the joints, moving them and using them is going to allow you to continue to have functionality to them. So
okay,
yes, exercising, yes, moving them will be very, very
Because
helpful.
yoga is strength, cardio, stretching, balance, all pretty much you get all of it in different yoga workouts.
The
So I
answer
don't think it can, I don't think
is helpful.
there
for
would be no
sure.
benefit. There would definitely be benefit.
Yeah, even the
Okay.
I think it would be safe.
Yeah.
okay, awesome, thank you.
You're super worried, definitely consult your physician if, you're-
Yeah.
yeah.
And
But-
maybe
Oh,
work
yeah,
with a yoga teacher like that, instead of just doing it on your own, somebody who can watch you. Yeah.
do it proper,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I love it. I love it. Anybody
you.
else? Oh, no, thank you guys. Thank you guys. Because of you guys coming here tonight, all of you are the inspiration the world needs to see. And
you.
hearing it from doctors, this couldn't get any better, honestly. And I'm so grateful, both Dr. Murcias tonight.
Yes.
I hope I can do.
Thank you. We're
Our
grateful
pleasure.
too.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, I'd
it's
love to do this
fantastic.
again. Thank you, everybody. Again, the links in the side are to Plantspiration, to Dr. Marchia's Instagram, where she posts amazing recipes. We didn't even get into being a mom and being amazing on all levels. But we'll keep following you, and I hope to have you guys back really soon. This was really just
This is
phenomenal.
awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great job to you guys for
Yeah.
hosting these events and
Yeah, you
for
are
the
an inspiration, honestly,
wonderful
inspiration.
group of people you have there that you're working with.
And
So
your mission is
kudos-
amazing. I read on your website. What a great mission.
Kudos to
Well,
all of you.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for all of you. So
Yeah, thank you for coming on, everyone. That's awesome.
isn't
This
it?
is
I'd
great.
like to just say our favorite thing afterwards. Good food, good mood, no meat. Now go eat, and everybody keep on loving yourself. And thank you so much for taking to come to your health. And as I like to say, eat your plants off. It's a number
Yeah.
one thing we don't do enough of.
Your plants off. I love it.
Plants off.
Thank you, doctors. We're so
Thank you.
grateful to have you here tonight, and all of you guys. See you in class on Wednesday. I'm going to teach you how to eat your plants off. That's
Okay,
that.
That's it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And you two doctors, the class too, if you would like to hop in and just
Yeah.
kind of just throw some food around, and we'd love to have you again,
be
you
fun.
guys.
Sorry,
Wonderful.
I follow you on Instagram. I'll join.
I would love that.
Awesome.
You guys are
Thanks.
amazing. Thank you for what you
Bye.
do. Thank you.